Physical, but miraculous nonetheless. Stay tuned for EWTN News Nightly for this Tuesday, February 11th, 2014. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick, and for Colleen tonight, looking at news now. 1 year ago today, Pope Benedict XVI shocked the world and the Church by announcing he is stepping down. He broke the news in Latin during a meeting with cardinals in the Vatican.
Propter bene consus pondes huius actus plena libertate declaro.
Pope Benedict set his departure date for February 28th, citing his age as the reason. A conclave to elect a new pope would come next. Italian journalist Giovanna Chiri understood the Latin and broke the story. I heard him say all of it. I couldn't believe my ears. All of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. My legs started to tremble. I basically went into shock. A pope hadn't resigned for nearly 600 years. And so reporters covering the Vatican kicked into high gear. It's a day journalist Ed Penton will never forget.
This has never happened before in our times, and so it was all an unknown territory. So there's lots of sort of speculating what could happen, what was going on, and an exciting time. And it's very interesting trying to figure out how they're going to handle this.
Today, Benedict XVI spends his time in the Vatican praying, playing the piano, and receiving some guests. Does he stay in touch with Pope Francis? We'll find out when we go to Rome in just a few minutes. Today, Pope Francis invited the world to pray for the retired pontiff, calling him a man of great courage and humility. And now some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. Shirley Temple Black has died. She was 85. She charmed her way into our hearts with nothing more than dimples and curls and a little dancing. Although Temple retired from film at age 21, she is ranked in the top 25 screen legends in American film history. She was also active in politics, holding several diplomatic posts, including ambassador to Czechoslovakia during the historic collapse of communism.
Start early.
She was surrounded by family members at her California home last night when she passed away. The South is bracing for another bout of wintry weather, but this time Southerners say they're prepared.
I am grocery shopping to stock up my refrigerator and my cabinets because I have 2 8-year-old twins at home and a husband, and they all eat a lot. Before
a single drop of freezing rain or snow fell, the governor of Georgia told state employees to stay home if they felt conditions were dangerous. Tractor-trailer drivers were handed flyers about a law that requires chains on tires in certain weather conditions. As much as 9 inches of snow could hit parts of the South by Wednesday night. French President François Hollande is visiting the United States. President Obama and the First Lady greeted him on the South Lawn this morning in a grand welcome ceremony reserved for America's closest allies. Obama and Hollande were slated to discuss foreign policy dealings with Iran and Syria, among other things. Tonight, they'll put on tuxedos and head to a state dinner. Hollande notably without a date. Despite more pressing international concerns, the French president's affair and breakups with his longtime girlfriend last month has been stealing the spotlight. And now the latest on the new health care law. The Obama administration has announced another delay for medium-sized businesses to put the Affordable Care Act into action. Companies with 50 to 99 employees will have until the start of 2016 now to offer coverage that complies with the insurance mandate, or they face fines. The health care law, passed in 2010, was supposed to take effect this year. But last summer, the administration announced a 1-year delay, the first sign of problems with the law's rollout. The U.S. Army is not tough on sex crimes. That is the analysis about hundreds of sex crimes by U.S. military members in Japan. The study shows the military's handling of the allegations is inconsistent. Punishments for sex offenders range from fines to letters of reprimand, but rarely prison time. Some women in the Army who have been victims of rape are speaking out.
You know, some United States military service women themselves who've been raped, and the same story as mine. No accountability, no action.
Defense Department officials admit there is a problem, but say the culture is shifting in favor of victims. U.S. Ambassador Caroline Kennedy is visiting Japan right now. This is the message that peaceful protesters are sending her. Don't relocate an American military base to the island of Okinawa. The governor of Okinawa has given the go-ahead to move a Marine Corps base currently located in a populous area to a more remote coastal area. Protesters say they hope to appeal to Kennedy's environmental sympathies to remove bases from the island altogether. Of course, England is known for its rain, but it hasn't seen this much rain since January of 1766. That's before the American Revolution. The southwest coast of England has been battered repeatedly by storms that have left many towns underwater. In the town of Raysbury, volunteers asked visiting government officials for help from the Army. Residents say they're frustrated.
What we'd like to know is, why are there not enough sandbags? We know every year that the floodings are getting worse.
Prime Minister David Cameron has defended his government's response, saying the government's deployed money and the military as needed. For many years, Orthodox Jews have been exempt from mandatory military service, but not anymore. Thousands of them are protesting in the streets against the draft. Police are fighting back with water cannons and grenades. It's a clash between Israel's secular majority and a devout minority that sees prayer and study as a way to preserve Jewish heritage. The ultra-Orthodox make up 8% of Israel's population, but only half of them work, and all used to be exempt from serving in Israel's army. This weekend, Catholics in Haiti used the reverberations of the 2010 earthquake to call Haitians to conversion. They organized a religious event that drew thousands of pilgrims for a literal mountaintop experience. Priests and pilgrims marched up to the mountainside on Sunday and prayed for a renewal of faith in their country. The 2010 quake killed tens of thousands and displaced 1.5 million people.
I don't like goodbyes.
Turning now to entertainment news. He's always brought the laughs, and now he's bringing tears. Jay Leno has been the face and chin of The Tonight Show for 22 years, but Leno is passing on the late-night torch to Jimmy Fallon as he said goodbye to his audience last week.
Boy, this is the hard part. I want to thank you, the audience. You folks have been just incredibly loyal. This has been the greatest 22 years of my life.
Fallon officially takes over as host next Monday, February 17th. Of course, many of us have been keeping tabs on Team USA at the Winter Olympics in Sochi. It's day 6 now, and security concerns have been overtaken by worries over the weather. The sun has been melting all the snow. But Americans are celebrating. So far, we have 2 gold medal champions. Sage Kotzenberg and Jamie Anderson both won gold in snowboarding. Well, 50 years ago today, the Beatles arrived on the music scene here in the U.S. Beatlemania began when the band played its first concert for an adoring American crowd right here in Washington, D.C. Some of those people who attended that first concert will be reliving it. EWTN News Nightly's Susie Pinto takes a look.
Naomi Banks remembers that night she first saw the Fab Four.
This was my little corner where I stood beside the drapes that used to hang here. And I looked down in there and I saw the Beatles.
It was the band's first real U.S. concert in Washington, D.C., just after their widely popular appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. Today, the concert hall is now a parking lot. The only sound, raindrops. But 50 years ago today, this place was packed with people.
The crowd was screaming and hollering and crying and tears and joy. I could not scream like I wanted to because I was not supposed to be in there, I guess.
That's right. A then 16-year-old Banks snuck in that night.
One more time.
She lived right across the street and still does.
So hundreds of kids waiting to get inside. When that door opened, you know, they just rushed on in.
Wherever the Beatles went during their first U.S. tour, they were met with massive crowds. 18-year-old Mike Mitchell was on one of his first assignments as a photographer.
You know, there was this, I gotta be there.
Decades later, his prints are seen as iconic images.
It was like being in the delivery room at the birth of an entire generation, and you could hear them all screaming at the same time.
And 35 minutes after the show started, it was over. Tonight, the sound that changed a generation will return to this old building with a tribute concert. Banks will walk across the street just like she did at age 16. Only this time, she'll have a ticket in hand, and she'll remember when all of America met these boys in February 1964, 50 years ago. Susie Pinto reporting for EWTN News Nightly.
Coming up, we go to Rome, where our Vatican correspondent Alan Holdren gives us the latest on Pope Benedict, 1 year after his announcement of his historic resignation. And we talk to one of the few journalists who has met with Pope Benedict since his retirement, Vatican expert Paul Badde.
The words and letters of our Holy Fathers, essential teachings of our Church, passed down from Christ through the apostles and their successors to us today. Grow in a further understanding of these teachings of our faith with Father Mitch Pacwa. On Threshold of Hope, Father Mitch has expanded the topics, ranging from the writings of early church councils to Blessed John Paul II and the teachings of Pope Benedict XVI.
We don't do the mission of the Church based on our own abilities and our own wits. We need the gifts of the Holy Spirit in order to be able to do this mission that is given to us.
So be sure to tune in and listen to Father Mitch as he guides us in a deeper understanding of these church teachings on Threshold of Hope, tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on EWTN.
EWTN looks back at this week in Vatican history.
On February 6, 1922, Pius XI was elected Pope. Born Achilles Ratti, he was ordained in 1879. Later, he was named Archbishop of Milan and Cardinal in 1921. The theme of his pontificate could be condensed in the motto, Pax Christi in Regno Christi, that is, the peace of Christ in the reign of Christ. Close to the heart of this pope was the evangelization of the faith in mission lands. He also exhibited great openness and enthusiasm to the expansion of the field of scientific research. This could best be seen in his decision to create Vatican Radio.
And this has been a look at This Week in Vatican History.
We come from different backgrounds.
We set aside our differences.
We bring our talents and our gifts.
We unite for a common purpose.
And we strive for glory.
Construyan un mundo mejor, un mundo de justicia, de amor, de paz, de fraternidad, de solidaridad.
One faith.
One church.
Wow, a life-size chocolate Pope. That's a lot of chocolate. I'm sure Pope Francis will share that with the staff there at the Vatican. We're going now to Alan Holdren, our eyes and ears of the Vatican. Alan, we appreciate you being with us, and everyone in Rome, I'm sure today, remembering Pope Benedict's shocking announcement 1 year ago today. Where were you when that came down?
Well, I was actually in a meeting, Brian, and I received a phone call. I hung up before I answered the call, and not knowing what was on the other line. And as I left the meeting, I called back quick. I got the news, and from that point on, it was just all systems go. It was a day like today, a little bit of rain, and it was just an incredible moment.
It's been an incredible year since that announcement that morning. What do Vatican insiders make of that decision now?
I think everybody's kind of still talking about that, mulling over exactly what the last year has meant. I think it's two major things, is that two doors were opened. The first, that with the increasing life expectancy in the world of all people, but even the popes, that this door to resignation was possible, and it will be possible from now on. And also the door of this pope exiting and opening the way to another pope, like Pope Francis, which has been really the point of this year, just incredible crowds, incredible attention to the church.
Has Francis said anything about this anniversary?
Yeah, actually he did this morning. Today is a holiday in the Vatican. It's a holiday for the Lateran Pax. There's nothing else going on. But he did send out a tweet, and he said that he would like people to join him in prayer for Benedict XVI, and really said that he appreciated the Pope's courage and humility in making that decision.
All right, Alan Holdren, our eyes and ears at the Vatican. We appreciate you very much. And Pope Emeritus Benedict is at peace with his decision announced a year ago today. According to a recent Reuters report, Benedict XVI was the first pope in 600 years to step down from the chair of Peter. EWTN News Nightly's Wyatt Spencer joins us with more. Wyatt?
Brian, the latest that we were hearing from the man closest to Pope Emeritus Benedict is that he holds no regrets nor resentment against critics of his papacy. The Archbishop, who acts as the personal secretary to Benedict, told Reuters that Benedict is physically old, but his spirit is vivacious. He spends most of his days in prayer in a former convent in the Vatican gardens, and that Archbishop said that when he looks back, he believes that many will offer a favorable view of Benedict's papacy. Even before Joseph Ratzinger was elected Pope Benedict XVI in 2005, he was called an intellectual force in the church. He had been a university professor, the dean of the College of Cardinals, and was in charge of the Vatican's office that oversees church teaching. In addition to his native German, Benedict can converse in 7 languages, including English. This is Cardinal Ratzinger on the world over in 2003.
In liturgy, we are not representing ourselves, but we receive the grace of the presence of the Lord with the Church of the heaven and of the earth.
A theologian at heart, Benedict talked a lot about church doctrine. He wrote more than 60 books and numerous other documents related to the faith. He's the first pope to use Twitter, offering blessings rooted in traditional Christian values.
In a world where some no longer believe that we can distinguish between simple right and wrong, we need your message to reject this dictatorship of relativism and embrace a culture of justice and truth.
Former President George W. Bush welcomed him to the White House in 2008. While in America, the Pope met privately with victims of sexual abuse by priests. It's an issue many say Benedict worked to address by holding clergy members more accountable. But despite the challenges, Benedict has echoed the message of his predecessor, John Paul II, of Christ's redemptive love. It's a message that remains central to Benedict's papacy. In Washington, Wyatt Spencer, EWTN News Nightly.
Now back to Rome. Paul Badde has covered the Vatican for many years. He recently had the honor of meeting with Pope Emeritus Benedict. Paul, we haven't seen much of Benedict. How is he doing?
He's doing very well. He's in peace with himself, and so am I. I'm in peace with his decision now, after a year, but it took quite some time.
Does he meet with Pope Francis on a regular basis or even at all?
Yes, they meet on a regular basis, and they're in close contact, and Francis calls him every now and then, and it is an increasing relationship, as I see it.
A lot of us are wondering whether we will see Pope Emeritus Benedict at the canonizations coming up on Divine Mercy Sunday. Has he been giving you any indication on whether or not he'll come out of this seclusion for this momentous event?
I doubt that very much, because he's very shy. He's shy in a way for the public. And what he did say when he resigned, he said he would go back on the mountain of prayer. And what we do have now is in the Vatican Gardens a power station of prayer and counsel. But there's no way. I mean, he would avoid any situation of competition. I mean, meeting the two of them here in Piazza San Pietro, I doubt this. I don't think this will happen.
He was such a close confidant of John Paul II, and certainly, continued that papacy as he took over the chair of Peter. That is surprising to me a bit, but we'll wait and see, and I trust your judgment on that one. You know the situation far better than us. I guess finally, what would you say about Pope Francis, about Pope Benedict XVI in terms of his daily life? What did you see in him as you visited him?
Pope Benedict, he stepped back with a revolutionary act. What he did, in fact, he enlarged the papacy. He amplified it, he potentiated it, he intensified it. Because what he said, he's talking about the Petrine service. And so His ring was destroyed, but he did not take his name back. There's no Joseph Ratzinger again. He's still in the white habit. So he remains in the service, but as a prayer. But he has not left. He is not left as Pope Celestine. So, and he is inside the Vatican. He is right in the back of Pope Francis, but just supporting him.
Well, Paul Badde, thank you so much for sharing this very intimate meeting that you shared with Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI with our audience here on EWTN News Nightly. We look forward to having you back on soon. Up next, John Allen Jr. of the Boston Globe talks about Pope Benedict setting the stage for Pope Francis. And on this feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, we'll meet some folks who have been personally and miraculously touched by the apparitions.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Ray here. On the next Living Right with Dr. Ray, read a marker from the Patients' Right Council will tell us how to protect ourselves at the end of life. You want to sin less? Don't say it. We'll figure out how to do that. And Father Larry Richards will tell us how to tune out the noise to hear God's quiet voice. It's just what you need to get it right. That's next time on Living Right with Dr. Ray here on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN.
It's an all-new season coming in March here on EWTN. We have new and exciting programs that are sure to strengthen your faith. Hello, I'm Doug Keck, President and Chief Operating Officer here at EWTN, and I'd like you to join me for our new season preview. Get a glimpse of what is to come with many of your favorite hosts, plus learn about everything EWTN has to offer to guide you in your faith. That's the EWTN new season preview, Sunday at 3 a.m. Eastern here on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN.
It's great to have Vatican expert John Allen Jr. with us in the studio from the Boston Globe. The classic Globe Trotter and his trottings has brought him here to Washington, D.C. Great to see you, John.
Pleasure to be here.
You have covered 3 popes. You've traveled with John Paul II, with Pope Benedict, now with Pope Francis. What do you make of this year of 2 popes, so to speak, since that historic announcement a year ago?
Well, I don't know if you're a baseball fan, but one of the iconic moments in baseball is when Kirk Gibson for the Los Angeles Dodgers, badly wounded, could barely walk, staggered to the plate, and in the bottom of the 9th hit a home run for the LA Dodgers that won Game 1 of the World Series over the A's. They went on to sweep. Vince Scully, in his famous call, said, "In a season of the improbable, we have just witnessed the impossible." Well, I would say the last year in the life of the Catholic Church began with the impossible, the previously unthinkable, that a pope not facing foreign armies or internal schism would voluntarily renounce his office.
In fact, the first question most of us ask is, can he do that?
Yeah, and he did, obviously.
Yes, and he could.
And what followed that impossible act was the improbable. You know, the Pope, Pope Francis, has become the most popular human being on the face of the planet, so much so that he was recently on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. And yes, by the way, I did buy 5 copies for my mother.
I'm glad, right along with that old song. Now, what about those 2? What do you know about their relationship, Francis and Benedict?
Well, what we know is they have appeared together in public on a limited basis, but privately they see one another very regularly. Francis is, of course, a guy who notoriously likes to get out from behind the desk. One of the things he will do is scuttle over from the Casa Santa Marta to the Mater Ecclesiae monastery in Vatican grounds where Benedict is living and check in on him periodically. Francis is also a pope who loves to work the phone. Now, the Pope Emeritus does not have his own cell phone, but Archbishop Gainswine, who's his sort of major domo, does, and so he'll pass the phone whenever Francis wants to chat. By all accounts, this is a relationship of deep respect, deep mutual affection. You know, Francis famously said that having Benedict on Vatican grounds is like having your grandpa at home.
I love that.
Yeah.
In your opinion, will Pope Emeritus Benedict be visible, be present at the canonizations of John Paul II and John the 23rd?
Well, the answer is I don't know. The ought answer is I certainly hope so.
Me too.
Listen, you know, Benedict, of course, promised when he resigned that he would be hidden from the world, and he's been a man of his word. I mean, he's only been seen in public on 4 occasions. I think there may be, and of course, this decision will be left up to Benedict. It's not like Francis is going to dictate to him what to do.
I don't think so.
I think given Benedict's personality, his desire to stay out of the spotlight, to not be a distraction, it's entirely possible he might decide he doesn't want to go. But I tell you this, as someone who covered John Paul's papacy and watched the role that then Cardinal Ratzinger played as kind of the intellectual architect and right-hand man of John Paul II, to me, as a Vatican watcher, it is inconceivable that you could canonize John Paul II without having Pope Benedict in the front row.
You heard it here from John Allen on EWTN News Nightly. Thanks for stopping in, John. We look forward to having you back again.
You bet. A pleasure.
All right, and people across the world are celebrating the Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes today. Jason Calvi tells us how a miraculous vision more than 150 years ago is still touching people's lives today.
It's an event that's honored in stone and marble across the world, including here in Washington, D.C., something that happened in France back in 1858 when St. Bernadette had a vision of the Blessed Virgin Mary. But it's not just honored in statues, but in the human heart. 16-year-old Joey Norris sits in Algebra 2 class, but this high school sophomore has also sat in places no kid ever should.
You always ask when something like that happens to you, why is this happening to me? Why would God do this to me? God shares in your suffering. He doesn't want all of this to happen to you. And getting leukemia and going through all that made me a better person.
Joey's now in remission. Mom Margaret has been at Joey's side through 68 days in the hospital and rounds of radiation. But she also was at his side when they visited the shrine in Lourdes, France.
I felt very much of a healing, mentally rather, not physically, but an emotional and mental calm that I hadn't had in a long time. Your brain, I mean, I couldn't sleep at night for a long time because you wake up and there's just so many things to think about. And Lord's help with that.
Miracles do happen.
The Order of Malta sponsored Joey's trip, bringing a whole plane of sick and volunteers to the healing waters of Lourdes.
On our pilgrimage, there was a woman who had to use a walker to get on the plane in Baltimore, and she went to the baths every day, and by the time we left, she was walking with no walker.
An estimated 6 million people visit Lourdes each year.
But I knew that the Lord was present there.
Moira McGinnis sought healing there. She was injured in a car accident as an infant.
I wasn't terribly disappointed that I didn't receive a physical healing, but because the Lord had already given me an inner peace.
Besides the inner peace, people often bring home water from Lourdes, something Joey shares.
Just anybody going through a tough time, just give it to them and say, you know, it will get better.
Just a few examples of people touched by Lourdes. If you'd like to share your testimony, log on to our Facebook page, EWTN News Nightly. Brian?
Thank you, Jason Calvi. Happy Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, and you can catch our entire program or any portion of it on EWTN's YouTube page. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, I'm Brian Patrick. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Stay tuned for another work of art from the EWTN Gallery. It's coming up next.
Thank you for watching EWTN. It is only through your support and generosity that EWTN can continue to provide the solid Catholic programming to help nourish your faith. EWTN is truly your network and is brought to you by you. To help support this mission, write to EWTN, 5817 Old Leeds Road, Irondale, Alabama 35210, or log on to www.ewtn.com.